Hi, in this session, we are going to talk about procure to pay cycle. How the procure to pay cycle will be executed in Fusion applications, we are going to discuss. Okay, so before we go for this lengthy procedure, I'm going to divide into 4 parts this. First, we will discuss first purchasing module. It will start with the requisition. What is requisition? Requisition is nothing but a document which will be prepared by an employee whenever employee required some goods or service or any other loan or amount. Anything is required, employee will raise the requisition. Employee will raise the requisition. Once the requisition is created, we have 2 different types of requisitions: internal requisition and purchase requisition. Once the requisition is created and approved, we will go for create RFQ document, request for quotation. Request for quotation. So this request for quotation is a document. We will send this document to the supplier saying that we are having following requirement. Are you interested to supply the goods for this location with this price, with this terms and conditions? So we are requesting the quotation from the suppliers. If supplier is interested, he will reply with the quotation. If supplier is not interested, he may just acknowledge that thanks for your concern, but we will not be able to supply the goods at this point of time, like that. So once we send this RFQ to the suppliers, then we will be receiving the quotation from the supplier. We will be receiving the quotations from the suppliers. And after that, we'll do the quote analysis. After that, we will do the quote analysis. If the organization has received multiple quotations, out of that, which quotation is better based on the price, discount, performance, brand value, immediate emergency, all parameters they will be taking, and finally they'll go for create a PO, purchase order, and then send this purchase order to the supplier, then receive the material. Here our inventory will be comes into the picture, and also account payables comes into the picture. The moment when we receive the goods from suppliers, we'll receive those goods into our inventory, and after that we'll raise an invoice in account payables, and we are going to make the payment to the supplier. So high level, if we talk about the procure to pay cycle, it's a standard question in the interviews also. They'll be asking us, what is procure to pay cycle? This is required for both finance functional consultant, supply chain management functional consultant, as well as for the technical consultants also. Okay, so the requisition, RFQ, quotation, purchase order, receipt. After that, receive the invoice from supplier, validate the invoice, account, approve, and make the payments, and transfer accounts to GL, and transfer the transactions, cash transactions, to cash management module. That's how we are going to perform. That's how we are going to perform. So I'm going to divide this into 3 parts here. Excuse me. So in part 1, I'm going to set up the rules required for procurement module. So in the part 1, we are going to have this. Once we set up these roles for procurement module, then we are going to have the requisition. We are going to create a requisition. Then after that, in part 2, we are going to discuss how to create RFQ document and send this RFQ to supplier. After that, receive quotation from the supplier. And in part 3, we are going to create purchase order. Create Then after the purchase order is created and approve the purchase order. Once the PO has been approved successfully, then we will go for receive the goods into inventory. Receive the goods into inventory. So that's what we are going to check in the part 3. So that the procurement will be completed. So in part 4, we are going to talk about accounts payables roles assigned to the user. We are going to assign to the user. Whatever the roles are required, that we will be using that, assigning the roles to the user, accounts payables roles to user. After assigning the account payables roles, then providing data access to the user. And then go for create invoice for the purchase order, whatever the PO we have created. Part 5, we are going to discuss how to make payment to the supplier. Then how to create accounts, transfer accounts to general ledger. And then we are going to verify purchase order status. So this is going to be complete our procure to pay cycle. Procure to pay cycle. So let's complete this video with this part 1. So when we are working with Fusion applications, first we have to identify the organization structure. Even if you join in the project also, when you are working in the real time, once you join in the project, first you need to identify what is the enterprise structure. It means we have to find out what is the name of the enterprise, which legal entity you are using, which business unit you are using. Before that, which ledger you are using, which business unit you are using, and what are the inventory organizations you are trying to use. And then let's take your item, procurement item. You have to go for verify and go for create your own user. We are going to make employee and user and make this user as a buyer. Make this user as a buyer. Okay. So in this particular instance, what I am trying to do, we'll be getting all these videos through this YouTube channel. Every day one video I'll be uploading. Let's log into the applications here. Make sure that you have the access to FSM, stands for Functional Setup Manager. We must have the access to FSM. How to find out? Go to user menu, setup and maintenance. Now I want to know the name of the enterprise. Manage enterprise SCM information. Go to this task here. Manage enterprise SCM information. There will be only one enterprise. We will not be able to find multiple enterprises for any client in the world, because Oracle has defined the architecture. The enterprise will be only one. We don't find multiple enterprises. Okay, this is the name of the enterprise. At the enterprise level, a lot of other setups will be configured, like workday information, enterprise information, like person number, worker numbers. But most of the setups, 90% of the setups at enterprise level will be related to the human capital management, like employee salary, at what level you would like to go for override, employee numbers, nothing but person numbers. How will you check the person number duplicate checkup? How will you check the salary update, right? How you would like to go for create your own user account. You want to create for every employee or for every customer also? How about the payroll elements information? You would like to go for archive, nothing but database backup. How you would like to go for configure the balances, payroll balances, position synchronization. These all are very important for human capital management. But anyway, it's not needed at this point of time for procure to pay cycle. Okay, So what is our enterprise name? Monitorsmal Enterprise. Let me just open. This is the name of the enterprise. Next, we have to go for which legal entity you are trying to use here. The legal entity name. What is the name of the legal entity we are trying to use it here? I'm going ahead with existing legal entity, US1 legal entity. So where do we find that? Manage legal entity. Go to the task, manage legal entity, SCM information. Sorry, manage legal entity. And when we select legal entity, we are getting scope. But when we select enterprise, we are not getting scope because enterprise is only one enterprise. We don't find multiple. But when it comes for legal entities, we can have multiple legal entities within the enterprise. Legal entity is nothing but, if we speak in our language, it's a registered office. It's nothing but a company. It's nothing but a company. By default, if depends on your client's requirement, let's say client says that I have business in 5 countries, definitely 5 legal entities are required, minimum. We can also have multiple legal entities. Let's say the client is doing automobile business, insurance business, and as well as the manufacturing business. So 3 companies they might have registered in a country. Then how many legal entities are required? 3 companies means 3 legal entities are required within that country. Okay. So now I'm going to select the existing legal entity, which is already defined, called US1 legal entity. Right. Search for this. Now this is what the legal entity is enabled. And it's legal employer means you can hire employees. It's PSU means you can run the payroll and pay the salaries to your employees. Both the things can be performed. Next, what is the legal entity name? US1 legal entity. Next, ledger. How will you find out? So which ledger is assigned for this particular legal entity? So generally when we go for the ledger here, assign legal entities, select your ledger name. It will ask you what is your ledger. US primary. Just press enter key here. We don't find any button or arrow mark here. And make sure that the ledger status is valid. See, this is the name of the ledger which we have, and this is the legal entity. US primary ledger. US primary ledger. And within the ledger, we can have either one business unit or multiple business units. And I want to know what is the business unit. Assign business unit, business function. This sometimes you don't find in this area, in this particular area. We need to get it from implementation project or from financials. Because earlier we were in compensation management. Now go to the task, assign business unit, business functions, and select your BU. Search for the business unit here. And this is our business unit, US1 business unit associated with the ledger and legal entity. US1 business unit. Next, within the business unit, we are trying to use the inventory organization because we'll be knowing that whenever we receive the goods into inventory, we are supposed to create an item, right, in that particular inventory. Go to manufacturing and supply chain management. I'm searching for an inventory organization called 001. Manage inventory organizations. Press enter. We'll come to know for which business unit this inventory is associated. We can find here for which business unit it is associated, US1, and it is already assigned for the ledger as well as the legal entity. This profit center business unit comes in cost management. Whenever we are trying to work with the cost management, material cost management, that time it's going to be used. Okay, fine. So this is our inventory organization 001. How about the master inventory? If I want to know the master inventory organization, operations 000. That's the master organization. Fine. So now everything is fine. 001 is this inventory. And now I wanted to go for create an item. Before that, we will hire employee. We'll do it all the setups from our username. Let me make it as character data type. Text. Let me go for hire user here. User. Going to mention that this user is PO user. Mail ID is in wrong format. Specify the format here. Hiring this employee for US1 legal entity and for US1 business unit. Go for save and close. This is PO underscore user. Okay, and we have to make this employee as a buyer. So if you are generally not required for requisition, it's not required. I'll show that also. Okay, let's go to navigator, tools menu, security console. We're going to reset the password. Go to users tab. We want to create requisitions. We need a role called advanced procurement requester. That's the role name is required to create a requisition. So in procurement module, means in purchasing module, the first document which we are going to create is a requisition. So what is requisition? Requisition is nothing but a document. It will be prepared by an employee whenever the employee required some goods or service. This here. Right now we are here in the requisition. Okay, so we have done all the setups required for that particular one. I'm going to create a requisition now. So go for save and close. For this user, we need to assign the business unit. Means data access we have to provide. For which business unit this user should create a requisition. So go for setup and maintenance. You can do it that setup either from financials or from procurement. Data access here. Manage data access for users. Username. There is only one role we have assigned. The moment when user login and select this role, and I'm going to mention which business unit user is supposed to select. Which business? If you would like to go for assign multiple business units for the same user, we can go for assign duplicate and select the second BU here. After assigning the data access, we must run the LDAP process. We must run this LDAP process here. Go to initial users. and run this LDAP process, lightweight directory access protocol. It's going to submit the users and roles information is going to be synchronized. Just log out and log in. Go to procurement. We can find here purchase requisition. Our employee is going to create a purchase requisition. Now here, whenever we are talking about the requisitions, before we go for create a requisition, it will ask you to set the self information, nothing but the current user default information preferences. And I'm mentioning that here following location is the default. Is it expense item or inventory item? I'm going to receive this item into the inventory. We can mention so and so sub inventory, but it's not mandatory. And I'm going to have default charge account here. Current user is showing invalid user, PO user is invalid. Why it is invalid? Is not a request. Okay. Fine. So we made this particular employee as a buyer. So now the issue has been resolved. So we have to go to the FSM, functional setup manager, and then we have to go for manage procurement agent, and then we will be able to do that. So I'm going to select the item name here. Is 54. We don't have item with this name. Let me search. Take some other item. This item I'm going to select. This is the item name. We are going to price the request for 100 items. Each item cost is let's say $50. Let's say $5. And who is the supplier? Advanced corporation I'm going to take. Supplier site and other. We got charge account. Then add to cart. After that, we'll go to the cart here. Now we are going to see what is the requisition status and who is the approver for this requisition, because we are supposed to check the approvals. Is it auto approval or any approvals are configured for this particular transaction? Application development framework. It means it's auto approval. We can directly submit for approval. What is the requisition number? 204133. 204133. That's the requisition number. That's the requisition number. Okay. So these are the setups we are supposed to do before we go for create a requisition. You have to hire employee, make him as an employee and buyer, add the role, add the data access, and do the basic preferences. If you want to update those preferences, we can do it from here. Edit. And again, the page will be open. There we can set the basic preferences, nothing but deliver to location by default will get. as well as the requester and other information. We are going to get it from here. It is. Let's see the status of this requisition. Go to manage requisitions option here and click search button. We can find the requisitions which are created by current user. Now we can find this. The requisitions has been approved successfully. So first document we have completed successfully. So in purchasing module, it will start with the requisition. So requisition is a document prepared by an employee whenever employee required some goods or service or loan or amount. Any type of things are required in the enterprises. What they do is they'll just log into the application, ERP application, and raise the request. In our language, we call it as general request. Here we call it as a requisition. Here we will call it as a requisition. This information will be entered at 3 levels: headers, lines, and distributions. You can find that information here: headers, lines, and distribution. Header level, we can find requisition number, date, status, and amount. Line level, we can find the item name, quantity, price, and other information. Billing, here is our accounts. This comes under the distributions information. We can find the view life cycle here. Life cycle means for this requisition, any POs are created, RFQs are created. How about the invoices or any other options we can find over here? It is. How about the purchase orders? Shipments are done or not? Receipts are done or not? Invoices are created for this particular, requisition is done or not? We will find here it is. Okay. Thank you.